Oh, hello, Kitty. Cat came in here. Yeah, maybe nobody will come.
I'm working on, we can talk about it tomorrow or while we're waiting for people to show up. But
Um, and I'd also like to introduce Stephen Campbell. He is the Director of Admission for Lamont, and he will actually be kicking off the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with the PowerPoint that we've got prepared here. And Stephen, take it away.
yeah. And also, Angela mentioned that she's your first point of contact. This is absolutely true, and she'll kind of guide you through the application and audition process. And then once you audition, then we kind of trade off, and you'll start working with me more after auditions. Once you're admitted, you'll get the admission decision from me, and then we'll talk at that point about your decision about where to go to grad school or undergrad. So yeah, Angela mentioned this is the Staying Organized webinar. We'll cover some tips about what to expect in your senior year. I think both of you who are here right now are actually grad students. So this will be senior year of undergrad, not senior year of high school. It's a very similar process. We'll talk about how to organize all the information that you have to keep track of during your application and audition process. We'll talk about the big ugly spreadsheet where you can organize all of that information. Angela's going to talk a little bit about how you can work smarter, not harder. And then we're gonna relay some advice from our current students about how they prepared for this big event of auditioning and applying to college. And then we'll have time at the end for questions. But like Angela mentioned, feel free to pop in the Q&A at any point or in the chat and let us know what's on your mind. So this is just the general timeline for the year leading up to your audition, right? So this is your senior year, whether that's senior year in high school or senior year in college. September is when apps are open. Applications are open now, including ours. Most every school will have the application open at this point. For graduate students, usually it's a slightly different application process, right? Because as undergrads, you have the Common App, which can be applied to many different schools. For grad schools, most schools have their own homegrown grad application. That's true for us as well. Right now, you should be finalizing your rep, your audition rep, and also making any pre-screen recordings that are necessary. We have removed a few of our pre-screening requirements, so take a look online, make sure you've kind of looked at every school to know what is required and which areas require pre-screening, which schools require pre-screening. And of course, the constant throughout is practice, right? You need to be practicing all the time for those auditions coming up later. December and into January, applications will start to close. Many schools have a December 1st deadline. We have a January 15th deadline for most of our applications. Pre-screenings are usually due with the application, right? So you can't send them in later. And then we're scheduling auditions. So once you submit your application, Angela pretty soon will start scheduling those auditions. And so it's kind of a first come, first serve situation, right? You submit your application, she's going to start processing those. For you in December and January, you'll start to plan travel. A lot of places, Lamont included, are moving back to in-person auditions this year. And so we'd love to see you come on out to Denver and play for us in person. We, of course, are still accepting recorded auditions, and we're doing Zoom interviews for folks who submit recorded auditions. You're finishing up your first semester at school. So that first semester of senior year is coming to an end, and you're continuing to practice. Many people use that kind of the holidays, both the kind of Thanksgiving area holiday, and then the winter holidays to submit and finish up those applications. So it's a good time to do that. January and February, this is when we're continuing to schedule auditions. And then late into January, we have our first auditions. Across the board, music schools tend to have auditions from late January through March. This is a point where you just try your best to enjoy the audition experience. We know that it's quite stressful. But it's an opportunity for you to feel out of school, get to know that place better, get to know the people better, ask all the questions that you can while you're on campus or while you're in that Zoom interview, and talk to people about your thoughts. How are you going to make the decision about where to go to school? Into March and April, we have some of those late auditions, and then you will be getting admission decisions. So for undergrads, we typically release our admission decisions actually in late February, with scholarship coming out a little later in the early March. Grad students, you'll hear from us on March 15th, and that'll include the results of your audition, your application, but also your scholarship. Schools are releasing decisions throughout this time. Every school is a little different. Sometimes they'll release the admission decision and then the scholarship decision later. Some schools wait all the way until April 1 to submit to release their decisions, but I don't know of any schools that wait till after April 1 to send out their decisions. So you should have all of the things on the table by April 1. At that point, you're comparing all of your offers. You're continuing to talk to faculty and current students, admission staff, getting all the details that you really need in order to make your decision. And then ultimately you make that decision. So grad students, you have until April 15th to make that decision. Undergrads, you have until May 1, which you can see on this timeline. At that point, you know where you're going and you can start making plans for that next stage of life. And it's really exciting for all of us at that point.
Okay.
I'll hand this back over to Angela.
Yes. So, so now that you're in the thick kind of planning for your auditions and applications, it's really important that you stay organized with all of the different deadlines and requirements that each person is or that each school has. So we like to say to start with, like, by organizing all of this into a spreadsheet, and you'll see the actual spreadsheet on the next slide. And you'll put each of these items we recommend as columns, so across the top, and then you'll have your schools listed in the left-hand column, and you'll just fill in all of the info. So so start with the degree name that school offers. Are you going for, I know we have grad students here, are you going for the Master of Music in Performance, or are you going for, let's say, a certificate in performance, or the Master's in Conducting, or is it the doctorate in conducting? You want to keep all that straight. And take down notes, anything specific about that degree that that stands out about you. Is there, for example, maybe you're going for the Bachelor of Arts in Music at one school, and you're going for the Bachelor of Music in Composition at another school. You might want to take down any notes about, like, how rigorous that degree is in terms of music. If one of these schools happens to have a particularly difficult piano requirement, do they allow you to test out of music theory, that kind of thing. Next column, who will you be studying with? This is maybe the most important factor in your decision making, is who is that faculty member. Music is unique in that way because you have that relationship one-on-one with a faculty member that is unlike almost any other degree or area of study. So you're going to be taking one-on-one lessons with this person if you're a performance major or a composition or major, and you're going to be seeing them every week for an hour for 4 years probably. And you want to make sure that that is a good relationship. So you want to have that person's name, their contact info, and important notes about that person. So maybe, you know, where did they do their schooling? Where have they performed of any significance? Where are they from originally? These are all good things to know. And then, yeah, keep that login information right in there. Like that can really slow you down, you know, when you're having to hunt around, well, what username did I use for this? What email did I use? What password did I use? You don't want to have to go looking for that, searching through your email. What is the contact info for the admissions office in that school? I made it easy here in my virtual background. I posted my email right there for you. So you, you know, you want to put that person's email and phone number, have it handy. And boy, this is important, deadlines. So you don't want to be missing deadlines. You don't want to be getting down to the wire with deadlines and scrambling at the last minute. And you're maybe putting out a pre-screening video or doing an audition at the last minute, and because you've rushed, it's not your best work. Sometimes the university or the college that you're applying to will have different deadlines depending on the program. So I know Joe is applying for the orchestral conducting program. That has an earlier deadline than the other music programs at University of Denver Lamont School of Music. So Joe, you have a December 15th deadline, whereas the rest of the programs have a January 15th deadline. And then sometimes too, programs within a school of music have a different deadline than the university that they are housed in. For example, so we have our general January 15th deadline for all of our music programs except orchestral conducting. We don't offer early decision or early action deadlines, which the University of Denver offers for most other programs, but we don't have that. We don't have pre-screening requirements, but a lot of places do, and that has an earlier deadline oftentimes. And then keep track of what do they want to see in that pre-screening. So that will probably be some kind of subset of the wider audition requirements for that area. So if you're a singer, for example, maybe your program wants to hear you sing at your live audition 5 arias and art songs, but they have a pre-screening requirement where they want to hear you do 2 things. So note that there. Audition dates, self-explanatory, get all that information in there. What do they specifically require for the audition repertoire? Audition modality, so that would be whether it's in person or if a recorded video is offered or a virtual audition. We have a lot more options in 2021 for how to do auditions than we used to, 10 years ago. So sometimes you'll find that a Zoom audition is a possibility. And then some programs also require that you do an interview, and that'll probably happen if it's required on the same day of your audition, but maybe not. For Lamont School of Music, we do auditions for every area, but we do have interviews required, for example, for composition. All right, and then here is that big ugly spreadsheet and what it looks like. So Excel, Microsoft Excel is your friend with this. You can also use Google Sheets, any other spreadsheet program that you're comfortable with. And you can see here we've got, like I said, all of the fields are across the top, starting with school name. And so you'd put all that there, and of course note the location if that's not clear by the name of the school. And you just start filling it in. And there's a couple other extra things on here that you might want to add that you didn't see in the previous slide. This is kind of when you get your decision, you finish the admission process. Things like, were you admitted or not? What were you awarded in scholarship? What's the total cost of attendance of that school? And so if you have some facility in Excel, you can do a little formula here. You can say this field equals this field minus this field, and then you'll come up with what you would be paying out of pocket to attend. All right, and then I have some general tips here that I want to share about how you can work smarter, not harder, and therefore stay organized and keep your stress level down as you're going through this process. So number 1, note those application deadlines. Put a reminder in your calendar, your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar, what have you, 3 or 4 weeks beforehand, so that you can use those weeks leading up to the deadline to spread out the work. This will prevent you from spending all night the night before a deadline trying to write an essay, or God forbid, tracking down a letter of recommendation from somebody. You really want to give your recommenders, if a program requires letters of recommendation, give them as much lead time as you possibly can. Do not come to them saying, I have a deadline tomorrow, would you be so kind as to write me a letter of recommendation? Some faculty will do that, but you had better buy them a nice dinner afterwards if they're going to do that. Another tip here. Most programs have a required essay that you have to write. So um, the topics are usually pretty general, but you can find that schools will overlap sometimes in what the topic is for those essays. For our undergraduates, you'll be filling out the common application, and so that's kind of helpful in terms of like your essay writing. You don't have to write different essays for every school. And then for our grad students, our grad applicants, the essay requirement is generally you have to do a personal statement. So you're telling us, who you are, what you're interested in doing at the university that you're applying to, how you'll use it in your life, that kind of thing. So you can find some overlap here, but do be on the lookout for specific essay requirements. I know at our our music theory and musicology programs, they want you to submit actual like pieces of writing that you've written in the past for like maybe your undergrad degree. So keep track of those things in that big ugly spreadsheet. Look for overlaps, numbers 3 and 4, in those pre-screening requirements and the audition rep. This is a huge thing because I'm sure, as some of you know, preparing for an audition is maybe the biggest thing that you'll be doing as part of the process. It's for us at least, it's maybe the most important piece of the application process. So it's gonna be the biggest amount of time spent is picking rep and then preparing that repertoire, and I should say learning that repertoire, and then practicing that repertoire to get it as best as you possibly can that represents you. So if you can find overlap in audition rep, that's really good. We try to keep our audition rep requirements general enough so that we're not asking for a specific piece in most cases. Voice is a good example about this. It's 5 arias or art songs for grad students. It's 2 for undergrads, and we don't get much more specific than saying, something in English, something in French, Italian, German, and so that's something to watch out for. Language requirements for string players, woodwind players, brass players. You might have specific studies that come from well-known books in the area. Schools aren't going to ask for anything too obscure if they're going in that direction. Note those audition dates and whether you're submitting recordings or going live. There are, you might be able to be really strategic in how you schedule your travel that way. So if you're thinking of, a lot of students do this, if you're thinking of coming out to Denver for a weekend to do your Lamont School of Music audition, you might also be checking out other schools in the area. So you might go audition at CU Boulder or University of Northern Colorado, or Metro downtown. So that way, Denver is a little bit geographically isolated, and you want to hopefully only make one flight reservation to come out to Denver for the weekend. So see if you can, get knock out like 3 auditions in one weekend. You'll be exhausted afterwards, but it'll be good use of your time. So, and then, you might see if you can just submit recordings for some of these other places that you're interested in, so that you're not completely depleting your savings as you go around traveling to auditions. And I'll say too, just with the pandemic, everyone has gotten a lot more creative with their auditions and a lot more flexible with how we look at live auditions versus recorded auditions. Here at DU, we've always treated them, on the same level. It's not that live auditions will get priority in admission or scholarship. The bonus for doing a live audition is that you get to go to that place and really experience what it would be like. And we roll out the red carpet for you when we welcome you to the campus. And there is something to be said for meeting those faculty in person, and for performing in person. You can't completely replicate the sound of a live audition on a recording.
Angela, can I jump in on a couple of those really quick?
Please.
You mentioned recommendations, and I always like to highlight, in particular for our graduate students, ultimately it's your responsibility, right, to make sure that those recommendations come through. Schools like Lamont that require recommendations for grad students can't consider your application as complete until they're in. And it's one of those areas where it can be a little bit weird, right? Because it's in your recommender's hands to submit the recommendation so that your application can be complete. So Angela mentioned give them lots of notice. That's a big deal. They're writing a ton of these recommendations probably. So the more time they have to think about yours, the better. But the other thing is remind them every once in a while. I know it feels weird to be like, I asked this person, they're doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. I don't want to, burn any bridges or anything. But again, they may have just forgotten. And because so many grad application systems now require the recommendation to come from the recommender, right? It prompts them to write it and send it to them as opposed to giving it to you so that you can submit it. Because of that, it's kind of totally off your radar. You're seeing it on your checklist that you're missing it, but you may or may not know where they are in that process. So don't hesitate to just kind of reach out with a friendly reminder to your recommenders saying, thanks so much for doing this. I just noticed it hasn't been submitted yet. Just wanted to remind you, put it back on your radar, that sort of thing. Another element about the writing samples, it made me think about the fact that some TAs at schools, ours included, require additional materials. So if you are a voice grad student who also wants to be considered for a graduate teaching assistantship in musicology, you will need to submit a writing sample of a research paper that kind of shows how you would be able to do that, perform those musicology duties. So that's going to change from school to school. It's just a little more complicated on the grad side in particular. So keep an eye out for additional requirements for financial aid and scholarship on the grad side. And then finally, a bit about the audition dates. Angela's advice to try and put geographic dates together so that you're not flying to Denver, for example, multiple times. The other point there is that, in my experience, most schools are willing to accommodate as much as they can, right? So a good example for us, we work very closely with CU Boulder to make sure that our students, our applicants, our joint applicants, applicants applying to both places, aren't getting crazy logistics, right? Like a audition at Lamont at 1 o'clock and then audition at Boulder at 2 o'clock. I mean, that's impossible, right? So we know that that's a real thing and that we want to accommodate you and be flexible for you. You'll find that at most schools. So don't hesitate to ask if that's a possibility. Mm-hmm. All right, thanks. I wanted to
absolutely. Yeah. Yes, I field those requests and questions all the time from our students auditioning. Hey, I've got a CU Boulder audition at 9 a.m. Is it okay if I do my audition at Lamont in the afternoon? Of course it is. We'll work with you on that. Okay, so we've got some advice from current students.
Yeah, so Hannah Flood, who's a second-year Bachelor of Music and Performance student, a flute player. She works in our office. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. She suggests keeping a calendar with alarm reminders. Use the one on your phone, right? Because you always have it close by. This is huge. I know it seems so simple, but just put it in the phone, get that reminder, know that it's coming, stay on top of things. It's super easy. If you get into the habit, it's a great idea. Keep a checklist. It helps you visualize what must get done. So a lot of schools use application software that will show a checklist to you. This is great. Having a link to that application status page on that big spreadsheet that Angela showed is a good way to kind of keep that right at your fingertips. But Hannah's advice is good. Keep that checklist. you get that really great fulfillment of checking things off as you go through, which you don't online. It's a great idea. And then Hannah supports what we've told you, right? That she really went through and put all of this information in a spreadsheet and kept it front of mind, organized it, kept her notes so she could go back and remember what she was thinking and feeling at that time related to that school. Yeah, so that's how she kept everything organized while she was going through the process.
Yes, and then Paige Billow, a senior in our jazz studies program who plays the saxophone, advocates that you should be over prepared. What a good piece of advice, honestly. You can never, know your music too well, I would say. And then having knowledge of the school and the professors. So this is a huge decision that you're making. You're deciding where you're going to spend the next 2 years at least if you're a grad student, or 4 years if you're an undergraduate at least. So do all of your research about the school and find out everything you possibly can, and take advantage of these kinds of webinars. Take advantage of the people in the admission office and current students. At Lamont, we are very willing to connect you to current students. We have 7 students working in our admission office who are experts on all things Lamont related, and they are happy to have a conversation with you. You can get all those questions answered. Get to know those professors, not just in doing research on them, but contacting them ahead of time and asking for a trial lesson. That is a really good way to get to know how they would be and how your rapport with that person would be. And our professors, at least at Lamont, they don't say no to those requests, and with the advent of Zoom and video chat, it's very easy these days to schedule a 30-minute trial lesson. And one little tip there, the courteous thing to do if you're not sure is about payment for a trial lesson. Just offer to pay, and they can always say no, it's a trial lesson, but it's just kind of a nice thing to do. I love this next one. So if you're auditioning in person, noting the exact locations, the addresses and the times of where you need to be and when. And if you're flying in especially, note travel times and leave yourself plenty of time to get to a place. Plan ahead of time of how you're going to get there. If you fly into Denver, do some research on the public transit system, because I'll tell you, a $10 light rail trip downtown is a lot cheaper than a $60 Uber ride. And gets you to the same place, and you can get to campus. So make an itinerary for yourself. You'll feel a lot better, and it'll really lower your stress the day of, to just have that all written down about where you're going and how you're getting there. And then Paige likes to make an actual calendar of deadlines. So, in addition to that spreadsheet, she throws those dates right in the calendar. I'm sure she does reminders for herself, 3 to 4 weeks ahead of time, deadline coming up, for not just the audition, but the deadline for when the application needs to be in. And she keeps all that information in the same place. I'm sure it's some kind of spreadsheet. And then I love this last one. She recommends submitting your materials early. Just a nice thing to do for yourself. Get it done with. Then it's done. You don't have to worry about it. And then you're not gonna get down to the wire and possibly miss a deadline. It's also just good planning because you get that stuff in, and then you're on our radars early. You're maybe on the faculty's radars early. It may not, increase your chances of getting admitted or getting a big scholarship, but it certainly can't hurt. All right, so with that, what questions do you folks have, Annie and Joe? You can put anything in the Q&A or chat us, or you can raise your hand if you want, and we can have you talk. whatever you'd like to do. So go ahead and do that. We'll hang out for another few minutes or so if we don't have any questions. While we're waiting, is there anything further you wanted to tell our attendees, Stephen?
We always like to remind our applicants throughout any of these webinars, it's cliche, right? But there are no dumb questions. Like, Angela and I are here to help you through this process, and our colleagues at other schools will say the exact same thing, right? We are here to help. This isn't like filing your taxes, right? There isn't like, if you do something wrong, most of the time we can help you fix it, right? It's not punitive. We're not here trying to like find your mistakes and be like, ha, all right, you're out. We figured it out. You missed a comma in your resume, whatever. It's not like that. So reach out to us if you have questions, and we'll do our best to answer. We'll do our best to help you through the process. Let's see, it looks like we have a question.
Yeah, and this is a common inquiry, Annie. So interested in applying to Lamont as a BM piano performance, but also interested in economics. Can you do that? Yes, you certainly can. University of Denver and Lamont, we're very open to you studying 2 different subjects while you're in your undergrad degree. And the details of how you do that and how you label that, there's a couple different options and ways to do that. And what's important is that you choose the way that works best for you and that accomplishes your goals. So what do I mean by that? So you mentioned the BA in economics. So we have a route that you can follow you'll get a BA, you'll get a Bachelor of Arts, and you'll have both music and economics as your majors. So if you go that route, you're going to hopefully graduate in 4 years, and you'll still have 2 majors, and there are some trade-offs there. So from a Lamont perspective, the BA in music compared to the BM in piano performance, know that you're going to have fewer music requirements in your overall degree. So whereas the BM in performance, about 2/3 of your credits are music related, with the BA, about 1/3 of your credits will be music related. So you're going to have, for example, half-hour lessons every week versus hour lessons. And that's half-hour lessons for 2 years versus 4 years of 1-hour lessons in the BM. There'd be also fewer ensemble requirements for the BA. You wouldn't have area requirements for the BA. So like piano specific classes, piano repertoire, for example. And then you wouldn't have required recitals, whereas with the BM in piano performance, you would have a required junior recital and required senior recital. So if that doesn't sound like it's enough music for you, you can absolutely go and do the BM in piano performance and then add a major in economics. We are happy to support you through that. Just know that it'll probably take you more than 4 years to graduate. It depends on your own credit situation, and like if you might come in with some AP credits, if you take classes in the summer. I can't speak as an expert about how the economics program would work with that. But it is certainly possible to get a BM in piano performance. And do people get BMs and BAs in economics, Stephen, or is it more common to, when they do 2 degrees, that they're doing like a BM and a BS or something?
It's much easier to combine a BA with the Bachelor of Music program. In fact, some areas have what they call a secondary major option, where you can just take the major credits, because Annie, right, that like a degree contains both credits that are applied to the specific area of specialization, the major, right? and then general education or electives or other credits that that when combined with the major area constitute the degree. So most Bachelor of Arts areas have like 40 to 45 credits in the area, and then the rest of the 183 come from other things, right? And so when you combine the Bachelor of Music with a secondary major, you're just taking those 45 credits and applying it to your Bachelor of Music program. That is the easiest way to do it. Not every area allows for that, and I don't know off the top of my head if the BA in economics will, but still I'd say it's easier and more common to combine the Bachelor of Music with a BA in another area rather than the Bachelor of Music with a Bachelor of Science in this case, because then you're doing what is called concurrent degrees and you're trying to do a ton of credits, which, you know what, people do it. Some people do it. It's amazing. There are not that many people who do that, and it usually takes more time than I think that they would like it to. One note I would add, just logistically speaking, Annie, is that regardless of what you choose, you're only able to apply to one major. You can add a second major once you're here, or add a second degree, but you only, on a Common App, you can only fill in one major. So I always recommend making that major music, because our process is more complicated and we have the auditions. We also scholarship differently, and we only give music scholarship to music applicants. So and if you apply as a music major, we'll consider you for the Lamont Scholarship, which is, musical merit, academic merit, and need. We look at all of those things. If you apply as an economics major, you won't be considered for that. You'll just be considered for the university's academic merit and financial need. And so I always say, start as a music major. It's easier to switch away from music than it is to switch to music as an applicant or even as a student later on. And then we can handle the kind of ins and outs of how economics matches with your music degree, kind of on a case-by-case basis. We have a wonderful student advisor, Kelsey Smith, who will meet with you every quarter, and she can sit down with you and say, all right, here's what you have to do to make this work. And you can look out, 4 years ahead and see kind of what your estimated time to graduation is. So well, you need to keep all these things, you need to be thinking about all these things, Annie. You need to be thinking about what you're interested in and whether or not DU or any school you're applying to can do what you need them to do. There's also a level of detail that you don't have to worry about quite yet, right? You can sit down with the resources here at DU and hammer out the details later on. You always want to look for those things that you can take off your plate now, right? We just finished telling you about all these things you need to keep track of. And so we also want to highlight things that, it's important, but you don't need to think about it. It doesn't need to be weighing you down quite so much at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Annie, I hope that we got to that question. Was there something else you wanted to add to that, Angela?
I did. Yeah, I just looked up about economics. The secondary major in economics is 44 credit hours.
Perfect.
Yeah. So just for a point of comparison, to get a secondary major in music, it's 70 credits. So It's no joke. And the BM in performance is it's a full 4-year track of 194 total credit hours, which takes 4 years to complete, and 132 of those are from music. So just keep that in mind if it's important to you to graduate in 4 years and do the BM in performance and a secondary major in economics. You're going to do whatever 194 plus 44 is.
Yeah, and some of those may overlap with, common curriculum and electives, but it's true that you're going to end up over 200 credits probably. Well, definitely. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it can be done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So, last call for any final questions. You're very welcome, Annie. Joe and Annie, it's been really lovely spending these 45 minutes with you. Hope we were able to answer some of your pressing questions and provide some information about how you can be successful in your overall process for applying to music school and just college in general. We're going to have more of these webinars coming up, and we'd love to have you, come get your questions answered at those. The next one is Wednesday, October 20th, a week from today. We're having a Q&A, an open Q&A, and there we'll have some current Lamont students on hand to answer your questions. So it'll be a town hall type of situation. Just come on in and get your questions answered. We'd love to see you there. There's my email. If you have any questions, we'll happy to chat with you. So
yeah, also I'd call out really quick to the Music Admission Roundtable Fair that's next Tuesday. It's pretty early in the morning. It's really meant for international students. It's at 7 a.m. Mountain, 9 a.m. Eastern. But it's an opportunity, there'll be a couple of those in the fall, you may have heard about them, but it's an opportunity to talk with, I think we're up to 110 colleges in participating in that. So it's a virtual college fair, right? You can show up, talk to people like us at a ton of music schools across the country. So there's more information on our website, and you'll get, I'm sure you'll get emails about it as well, but keep it on your radar. It's a great resource.
Yep. And Annie, I see you're already registered for the virtual piano day at Lamont. Awesome. So we can't wait to have you there. All right, folks, have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you later.